Anyways, let's get to, like I said, the fights of this weekend. Let's start obviously with the Lomachenko fight versus Pedraza. One that I think is relatively easy to call, even though Pedraza looked pretty good in his last fight against Ray Beltran. A fight that I think a lot of us picked against Pedraza. I think Pedraza showed, better boxing skill, good work off the jab, good combination work, and of course, just his footwork was probably fantastic in that fight. But Lomachenko is one of those guys where if you look at him compared to Pedraza, he beats him in every single category. I don't know how this is going to be a really competitive fight other than Pedraza's a really tough guy. He can take a lot of punishment. He took a lot of punishment in the Gervonta Davis fight before he got knocked out. This one could probably go all 12. It might end earlier than that, probably around maybe 9, 10, 11. But safer bet's probably the full 12. Unanimous decision, wide, 10-2 for Lomachenko. I just see him being better in pretty much every single category than Pedraza in this matchup. What's your thoughts on it, Roberta?
Yeah, all right. Yeah, obviously Loma's going to be a massive favourite going into this, and like you said, I can't see Pedraza posting too many problems for Lomachenko. We've got these amazing Ukrainians that have stormed the scene.
Mm-hmm.
Usyk included, seeing as he got past Ballier, he now gets his outstanding badge.
Vasyl, obviously, with the huge win over Adonis Stevenson. And quick sort of news on Adonis Stevenson. He is still in medically induced coma. He's had surgeries done to his brain. He's had a traumatic brain injury. The doctors are saying that he probably will have irreversible effects because of it. So just prayers and condolences to his family and everything. Just a really tough situation, even though obviously it was a ascendance to another guy. It's one of those unfortunate stories in the game.
Yeah, for sure. And obviously, whatever people want to think of Adonis, before this fight, obviously we can just, try and get over that. And obviously, you don't want to wish anything like this on anybody. So, yeah, fingers crossed he can come out of this with, a little bit better than it seems right now. So, yeah, but back to obviously Lomachenko. We all know he's, the real deal and super skilled, super slick. I'd probably even go for a stoppage in this. I know you said a decision's probably favourite, but I just think he's, onwards and upwards. I think he's just the guy to beat if anyone out there could do it. Obviously, there's maybe down the line we're going to maybe see the Mikey fight, but until then, I just can't see anyone else in the division that's anywhere near got the potential to cause him any troubles at all.
I mean, there's some guys I can see him maybe giving him like tough fights, like a Kome, a Denis Shafikov. There's certain people that I could see giving him tough fights, but there's no one that is seemingly a favorite over Lomachenko at 135.
Yeah, that's maybe what I meant rather than...
Yeah, that just does not exist unless it's Mikey. And then if somebody's picking Mikey over Lomachenko, I have no issue with that. I think that's a 50-50 fight. If somebody's thinking that Mikey's the favorite, I'm not really going to argue that one. But Mikey's going to 147, doing other stuff and getting bodied by Earl Spence, so we don't need to really talk about that. But we're basically all in agreement on Lomachenko Pedraza. It's seemingly a very easy fight to call, I think, in everyone's opinion. Let's move on to Isaac Dogboe versus Emmanuel Navarrete. I think Dogboe probably is going to defeat Emmanuel here early, within 6 rounds. Emmanuel's never fought outside of Mexico. That's always a big concern for me, just being from the Southern California scene and knowing the stigma attached to people only fighting in Mexico. Once in a while, we get a Jaime Munguia that comes out of nowhere, only fought in Mexico, and he's the real deal. But sometimes we get Carlos Ocampo, who's only fought in Mexico and isn't the real deal. And Dogboe, whatever you want to say about that guy, is the fucking real deal. His win over Jesse Magdaleno proved that. I think Dogboe should come in here, be in his face, be aggressive, and really just be the better, more powerful puncher in there and knock him out relatively early. Thoughts?
Yeah, again, fully agree. I can see him getting this guy out of here pretty quick. He's actually a minus 1,200 going into this, so he's massive favourite. I really like him. I recommend anyone, if they check out the BBC Sport, Steve Bunce and Mike Costello, the boxing podcast they had a whole podcast interviewing Dogboe, and it's really real interesting story behind the kid. And yeah, I just can't see him losing this one. And I think there's potentially talk of a fight back in sorry, I forgot the country he originates.
I think it's Ghana.
Ghana, yeah, that's right.
Yeah.
I think Bob Arum has spoke about a potential fight next year in Ghana. So massive homecoming. He's actually like almost like a megastar over there, from what I can make out from the interview that I mentioned. So that'll be a big deal for him. So yeah, no, he's definitely burst on the scene with that Magdaleno win. Yeah, and now it's like he seems almost like the guy of the division. So yeah, I'm really looking forward to watching that one.
Obviously, your cousin has a great fighter in his stable, Mr. Daniel Roman. I mean, he's obviously a champion in that division as well. Ray Vargas is another guy with Golden Boy. There's a few guys in the division that obviously presents really interesting matchups with Dog Bay, but Magdaleno beat Donaire. That was like a seemingly passing of the torch in the division, beating Magdaleno in really impressive fashion, come behind fashion, fight of the year fashion. I think that was a little bit of a passing of the torch moment where we forget about a Daniel Roman, who still is a fantastic guy and obviously championship caliber, and a Ray Vargas, who might be really the best guy in the division. We just don't know because Oscar De La Hoya is not really the greatest promoter when it's not Canelo Alvarez on the bill. Let's be completely honest.
Exactly, yeah.
But moving on, quick sort of shout out to Teofimo Lopez versus Mason Menard. Mason Menard, obviously, common opponents against Ray Beltran, who we talked about, obviously, with Jose Pedraza and Devin Haney. It's going to be a good barometer fight for Teofimo Lopez, so can't wait to see that one.
Just see which Fortnite dance he chooses for the victory.
Yeah, but, I agree.
Definitely like Teofimo Lopez. He's got a lot of character, got a lot of. He's a good talker. I think he's obviously a potential, star. I don't want to say definite world champion or anything like that. He's 10-0, so but he's definitely one to watch without a doubt.
Let's move over to the DAZN / Matchroom / Sky card. Kell Brook versus Michael Safara. Jonah Carroll on the card. Josh Kelly versus David Avanesian. I like that fight. Anthony Fowler versus Still TBA. That's really upsetting. Kid Galahad on the card. Just a bunch of people of note, really, on the card that really isn't getting any shine. Boxing Blunts, I see you saying that you emailed me for the call-in link. I'll be sending you that in a bit. But just know I see you. Don't worry. I'll let you take lead on this, Rob, with the whole Kell Brook. Obviously, him being your boy, Jonah Carroll being your boy. Obviously, Anthony Fowler being basically family with you. Let's be honest, right? Like you guys DM each other on the regular. So let me know sort of your mindset on this card.
Yeah, I mean, I like the card because I recognize a lot of the guys on there, and but as far as matchups, the Brook one is interesting because I'm pretty sure when Fowler got his last victory, Michael Zafira was mentioned as an opponent for Anthony Fowler next before maybe heading into a Ted Cheeseman fight. Now, all of a sudden, he's fighting Kell Brook. And I kind of a little bit sort of, I don't know, like not let down by Brook's career, but obviously he had the great win over in America against Sean Porter. But, what's he really done since? It's I know he's fought Gennady and Spence, back-to-back real tough fights, but it's just sort of stuttered and his career's kind of, I don't know, sort of faltered a little bit. But I'm obviously looking forward to it. He's off the back of a little bit of a layoff since the Rabchenko knockout, which was an impressive knockout. But it's in his hometown. But there's a lot of talk from the Zafira camp they're coming to upset the apple cart, but you quite often get this sort of chat from the opponent. But I expect Kell Brook to sort of come through this. And then do we get the Amir Khan fight? Obviously, we've got some news to talk about on that a little bit later. But this whole fight is in danger of being just too late. If it's not going to happen this time around, then that's it. The moment's gone, and no one's going to care. But yeah, we'll see how that one goes. But John O'Carroll against Frenoir, I think that's an eliminator that will end up facing Tevin Farmer. Carroll. Always like watching his fights. You know, very gritty, a lot of heart. He shows a lot of.
Was his last fight Tyrone McKenna? Was that his last fight?
His last fight was
Was that?
Declan Geraghty.
Oh, thank you, thank you. Yeah, I agree. I think Jonah Carroll's an all action, all exciting fighter. Him versus Tevin Farmer, I would be excited for. Him versus anyone at 130, I would be relatively excited for. He deserves to sort of get that step up now, in my opinion.
Yeah.
Speaking of Kell Brook and sort of this fight, I agree. It's one of those where it's a hometown fight. It's a fight he should get an easy sort of finish in, and one that was seemingly a setup for another fight. Obviously, we're going to get to the whole Amir Khan, Terence Crawford thing later on in the show. This could, like you said, definitely be one of those fights where it just gets totally forgotten. It's kind of a joke, even more so in hindsight, depending how that situation with Khan and obviously Brook eventually goes. Quickly, want to talk about the Josh Kelly, David Avanesian fight. David Avanesian really, I think, only being known for losing to Lamont Peterson. But at least that is a barometer for a guy like Josh Kelly, who's 8-0. I like the matchup. David Avanesian's usually a very durable guy. He's not the most technical guy. He's not the most. He's not the guy that's really going to shock you in any way. But he's a tough, durable guy that's going to walk you down, and make you work. That's going to be good for Josh Kelly to have that experience and that look. And again, he's 8-0, so I'm okay with this matchup at this point.
I think this is an opportunity for a guy that's kind of been a name in the division. I think Mosley didn't fight after fighting. That was Mosley's last fight against Avanesian. But I think it's a guy that's going to look good on the resume for Kelly, someone he's going to be able to style on and show us his slick skills. I just still have a question mark over Kelly's power. I hope that whether he's going to grow into the power a little bit, grow into it. He's obviously still quite a youngish fighter, so I'll be looking forward to just seeing what Kelly does there. But like I say, I've just got that question mark. Obviously he's got possibly elite level skills, but I don't know if that's enough sometimes. Obviously we've seen Fury this weekend show that skills do pay the bills in some respect. And I think maybe he had enough pop just to have Wilder's sort of respect. But I want to know that Josh Kelly can, real put a beating down on it. It's all right having all these slick skills, but if a guy can sort of take your punch and walk through it, you're going to have to really show some skills then. So obviously Josh Kelly, exciting fighter to watch, but just for me, just a little question mark over the power, but hopefully he proves me wrong. Then again, Anthony Fowler with a TBA, he's getting super frustrated. He knows there's like a potential big fight for him coming up around the corner, but he was stated last time in his post-fight interview that he's sick of fighting these like Eastern European guys that sort of come in for the money and just sort of run and cover up, and he said that they're making me look bad. You'll see the best of Anthony Fowler when someone comes to fight me. So I'm expecting another stoppage from Fowler. I expect to see a lot of body work early on, and then I expect him to then sort of switch it up to the head. I think he had a great knockout on I think it was the Dillian White card, where about 5 rounds he basically pounded the guy's body and then came out for round 6, fainted with the left hand, I think, and threw the right. Good night. The guy was asleep on the bottom rope. So I think he's working really well now with David Caldwell. I think he's really brushing off, some of the rawness of Fowler. He's still not, I wouldn't say maybe the greatest on his feet. Maybe just, a lot of work to do still, maybe.
I think he's a guy that needs to start coming over to the U.S. with Matchroom USA cards, just because there seems to be a lot of good talent at that division in the U.S. compared to the U.K., I would say. While the U.K. is a little bit strong at 147, 160, 168, there's other divisions that they're a little bit more stronger and a little more depth in that he could sort of go through the ranks. I think he would benefit from actually coming over to the U.S. and having a few fights with Matchroom USA. Obviously, still in that Eddie Hearn conglomerate, so I think he can still benefit from that, still be shown on Sky. That's something they should look at, or at least try to get some U.S. guys over to him, because, like he has said, like you just said and reiterated, he's fought a lot of no names that really aren't doing anything for him in any sort of way. When compared to, let's say, a Josh Kelly, even though he's fought, good, solid matchmaking opponents where we know he's going to win, there's still a Carlos Molina in there. There's still David Avanesian in there. There's still guys we sort of know and recognize because that division's just a little bit stronger where they can grab from. That would be my only thought process about Anthony Fowler because we don't know who he's fighting yet still.
Yeah, like I say, I think around the corner of 2019, we expect to see a Ted Cheeseman fight, which would be a real good domestic fight for obviously UK fans, and obviously on DAZN. If it's going to be on DAZN, I would urge American fight fans to tune into it because Cheeseman, very sort of skilled fighter, Anthony Fowler, very sort of come forward, almost, not again on the level, but like a Triple G, really wants to stalk down and let his hands go. But at the moment, he's just had guys that have constantly been trying to run away from him, and it's maybe not convinced sometimes the commentators of his actual abilities, because they've sort of questioned he's maybe not got the greatest footwork, he's maybe not cutting the ring off as well as he could do and things like that, and it's just been hard for him, and I think he's just been super frustrated with quite a glittering amateur career behind him, and now kicking on in the pros. But expect bigger things for Anthony Fowler in 2019. We've also got Kid Galahad making another appearance. Always it's difficult with Kid Galahad because some have said he's not the greatest fighter to watch, but when you watch him, he's very sort of skilled and technical. And if you really are sort of someone that loves to watch that technical side of the sport, Kid Galahad is sort of pretty sort of one for those kind of people to watch. So other than that, not great names for people to tune into. Obviously, some 8-0, 4-0, 3-0, 8-0, but it's a decent card. It's boxing on a Saturday night on Sky, so I'll be tuned in.
Yep, agreed. The only thing about Kid Galahad I have an issue with is that he is definitely mismanaged in some way because he should be fighting better opposition at this point, in my opinion. Because a 10-4 guy whose last 4 fights are all losses, it's just hard to get up for those. Even though the card is littered with names that we care about, there are names we care about fighting names we don't care about. And that's always an issue in some shape or form, but long term. Of course, this is one of those small cards that's a setup card for other bigger cards. So I, fundamentally don't have that much of an issue with it. Moving on to the HBO card, which even though, shout out to HBO, went from only this year in May having the first female fight on HBO history, now having 2 female fights on the card, even though they're fights that I'm not really interested in. Clarissa Shields versus Formika Hermans, Cecilia Barakis versus Alexandria Lopez, and Juan Francisco Estrada versus Victor Mendez. Of course, the Roman Gonzalez fight versus Pedro Guevara was canceled due to Roman Gonzalez getting hurt. I mean, we can sort of be quick at this. All the A sides are going to win. Hopefully, it's in exciting fashion. And this is a sad end to HBO.
Yeah, it's just been pretty depressing. It's just petered out. It's I don't necessarily get to watch, obviously live some of the HBO cards, but in the past, obviously, I've always looked for a link the next day to catch the fights, and HBO have been a huge part, but the slow, drawn out decline has just been almost, painful. But yeah, it's good to see Clarissa Shields back out again, nice and quick since the fight on the Kansas card.
And also, very quickly, just after Clarissa Shields, just a figurehead of how all these networks can either work together or allow fighters to move to different networks. Went from Showtime to DAZN to HBO all in 1 year. I wish more fighters can do that.
Yeah, and I don't want to go down the route, but I don't know if just at this moment in time whether that she's a woman boxer, that although obviously she's got great support, but I just don't know that sometimes I feel. Obviously, we got Katie Taylor over here, and unified champ, and obviously Claressa's a unified champ, but I just feel maybe stateside there isn't quite that love for women's boxing as maybe it is quite here. I'm not saying, you know, we're super women's boxing fans over here. I personally am. I like it. I love watching Claressa Shields. I love watching Katie Taylor and all those. But whether that's a reason that they're happy for her to go elsewhere, I don't know. But I believe she done decent numbers on. I think it was the last time she was on Showtime.
Yeah, she did decent numbers.
Better than Joshua Parker, even, I think.
Yeah, I agree. I can see the logic behind what you're saying. I definitely think that's
very careful when I was saying it.
Yeah, I think the trend is changing though. I think that's very obvious. Like only a few years ago, like this just doesn't exist. Like only last year, women's fights never existed on HBO. Now we have 2 on 1 card. Like, yeah, it may be a sign that the other networks that are attached to these fighters are more willing to let them go because they are female fighters. I understand that logic.
I just think you're not going to get the unified middleweight male champion being allowed to go over to DAZN, to be able to go over to HBO, to be able to, do you know what I mean?
Yeah, I mean, I can see why you think that. I'm not really going to disagree with it because I can definitely see why if you're Showtime, you're like, okay, Claressa Shields is not worth as much as a Danny Garcia, as Adrian Broner, as all these other people. Like I fundamentally understand that point. Don't get me wrong. But speaking more from the fan perspective, not from the network perspective, because I understand how business. I think regardless of women, male, if you're drawing more numbers, they're going to care about you regardless. That's why Adrian Broner has always been a priority for Showtime, regardless of if he has a belt or if he's winning fights. But I would say from the fan perspective, that trend and that feeling towards women's boxing definitely has been changed in the last few years, thanks to Katie Taylor, Claressa Shields, Michaela Mayer, some very key women that have done well and have been pushed by networks like ESPN, like Showtime, like Sky Sports. So that to me is a good trend and a positive trend that we should probably focus more on as a whole, not just me and you. I'm not talking about me and you, just more generally speaking. But yeah, I really have nothing else to say on this card. Shout out to Francisco Estrada fighting on it in place of Roman Gonzalez. You know, that's about all I have to say about it.
Yeah. In the great words, it is what it is. But
that is true.
It's just sad that, you know, this is going to be the end. You know, it's just petered out really painfully. And
and quickly, just to add to that, Santiago asked in the chat, Matt, Rob, your thoughts on the return of Larry Merchant on their farewell broadcast and it being on Boxing After Dark, so not World Championship Boxing, meaning production quality is very low, which means they're putting very little into it, so to speak. I think it's nice. It's a good gesture to have Larry Merchant back. I've never been one to like ride for Larry in any way. He's all right. He's funny at times. Has had great moments. Definitely Hall of Famer, just in terms of longevity. I think it's just a good sign. It's just a good farewell gesture in a sense to the hardcore fans of HBO boxing. Nothing more than that.
It's just a nice look at the end, you know, a little bit of sentiment, like, oh, do you remember the good old days, kind of.
Now, I'll put it this way. If he goes on and he's like, you know, God forbid, like not 100% there in any way, and he's a little bit old and rambling, it's not gonna be good on Twitter. Boxing Twitter's gonna just attack it. I guarantee you.
If I don't know if he wants to bring out the old ones and sort of say to Claressa Shields, if I was 40 years younger, I'd kick your ass or something. I don't know, but yeah, I mean, bless him. He's been a big part of the sport. There's obviously some famous moments, including obviously like the one I just referenced with him and Mayweather. You know, you don't know shit about boxing, and then obviously Merchant gave it back. But yeah, we'll wait and see on that. Like you say, boxing Twitter might be pretty brutal after dark.
I definitely agree with that. We can move on to the news of the day.